Hello, I'm Sebastian. Welcome to 9R Trees podcast. Today, I will summarize and review the book Time Loops, Precognition, Retrocausation, and the Unconscious by Eric Wargo explores a provocative idea. Some experiences that feel like intuition, déjà vu, or meaningful coincidence may be traces of information traveling backward from our own future. Building on themes familiar from Wargo's earlier work and on public discussions in parapsychology and psychology, the book presents a model in which the unconscious mind can register emotional and motivational signals from events that have not yet occurred. Rather than treating precognition as supernatural, Wargo frames it as a byproduct of time symmetry, feedback, and the way the mind constructs meaning across time. The focus is less on flashy predictions and more on subtle, personal phenomena, such as dreams that later seem to match real events, creative ideas that arrive ahead of their apparent sources, and patterns of anticipation that shape choices. The book invites readers to consider how memory, desire, and narrative may interact with physics-informed notions of retrocausation, and what that implies for identity and decision-making. I will give you key takeaways from this book. Firstly, a physics-inspired framework for backward influence. A central topic is the attempt to translate precognition into a concept that can sit beside modern physics without relying on mystical explanations. The book emphasizes the difference between claiming that the future is fixed and claiming that information-like effects can run counter to our usual sense of time. In public debates, retrocausation appears in some interpretations of quantum mechanics and in discussions of time symmetry, and Wargo uses that intellectual landscape as a backdrop for an accessible model. Experiences in the present can be biased by emotional or motivational consequences that occur later. The result is a loop-like structure rather than a one-way pipeline from past to future. This approach reframes anomalous experiences as feedback signals, comparable to how a system can be stabilized or destabilized by outputs feeding back into inputs. The model helps explain why alleged precognition often appears as fragments, images, and feelings instead of clear forecasts, and why it tends to cluster around personally significant events. It also clarifies what is and is not being claimed. The aim is not prophecy, but a naturalistic account of how the mind might be sensitive to its own future states under certain conditions. Secondly, the unconscious as a receiver of future emotional salience. Another major topic is the role of the unconscious in filtering, translating, and disguising time-displaced information. The book highlights that many reported precognitive experiences are affective first and factual second, an unexplained sense of dread, a vivid dream image, or an intrusive thought that later clicks into place. Wargo's emphasis on emotion and motivation suggests that what returns from the future is not a tidy description of events, but a tag of importance, a kind of unconscious prioritization signal. This perspective aligns with broader psychological ideas in which attention and memory are organized around reward, threat, novelty, and personal meaning. It also offers a reason why the conscious mind often fails to recognize these signals until after the fact. Consciousness seeks coherent narratives, while the unconscious trades in associations, symbols, and compressed summaries. The book further implies that the unconscious may protect the self from disruptive certainty by presenting the signal indirectly through dream logic, coincidence, or creative imagery. This framing makes the phenomenon more relatable, shifting focus from laboratory-style prediction to the everyday ways people notice patterns of anticipation around relationships, work, health, and turning points. Thirdly, dreams, déjà vu, and synchronicity as loop artifacts. The book treats certain familiar experiences as potential surface manifestations of time loops. Dreams are especially prominent in public conversations about precognition because they naturally blend memory, emotion, and symbolic imagery, making them a plausible channel for faint, future-oriented impressions. In this view, a dream that later resembles a real event does not need to be a literal preview. It can be a distorted echo, shaped by the dreamer's concerns and by the mind's tendency to turn strong feelings into scenes and metaphors. Déjà vu is framed as a momentary mismatch between a current perception and a prior internal impression, producing the sensation of having been there before. Synchronicities and meaningful coincidences are interpreted as narrative knots, where attention, expectation, and later payoff align to create a strong sense of significance. The key point is that these phenomena are not treated as random curiosities, but as structured experiences that might follow predictable patterns if future emotional salience is doing the pulling. The book encourages readers to examine the timing, themes, and personal relevance of such episodes, and to distinguish between vague pattern-seeking and those moments that carry a clear effective charge and later resolution. Fourthly, evidence, skepticism, and the challenge of interpretation. A substantial topic concerns how to think responsibly about extraordinary claims. The book operates in a contested area where methodological critiques, replication debates, and cognitive biases matter. It addresses, in broad terms, why precognition is hard to demonstrate cleanly, effects are presumed subtle, the unconscious may express them indirectly, and people naturally remember hits more than misses. The time loop model also complicates simple testing because the act of learning an outcome can itself become part of the loop, changing what is remembered and how prior impressions are interpreted. Readers are prompted to consider alternative explanations such as coincidence, selective recall, confirmation bias, and the human drive to impose meaning on randomness. At the same time, the book aims to show that skepticism is not the same as dismissal, and that one can hold a disciplined curiosity, track experiences, compare them to later outcomes, and look for recurring structures rather than isolated marvels. The discussion helps readers avoid two common traps, treating every coincidence as paranormal proof or rejecting all anomalies out of hand. The value lies in adopting a framework that makes testable predictions about when and how such effects should appear, especially around emotionally charged future events. Lastly, implications for creativity, agency, and personal development. The time loop idea is not presented only as a puzzle. It is also a lens for understanding creativity and choice. The book links future-oriented impressions to creative breakthroughs, suggesting that ideas sometimes feel ahead of their sources because the mind is assembling connections that will later be recognized and rewarded. In a loop model, an artist, scientist, or entrepreneur could be drawn toward an outcome by the future satisfaction of achieving it, with the unconscious providing nudges in the form of fascination, persistent imagery, or a sense of inevitability. This raises delicate questions about free will and determinism. Rather than implying that everything is fixed, the loop framing can be read as emphasizing self-consistency, decisions, and outcomes cohere across time because each becomes part of the conditions for the other. Practically, the book encourages readers to pay attention to their own motivational signals, especially those that arrive in ambiguous forms like dreams and spontaneous associations. Used wisely, this can support reflection, goal setting, and emotional insight, not as a fortune-telling tool, but as a way to notice what the psyche is gravitating toward. The broader implication is a more dynamic sense of identity, where who you will become is already shaping what you notice now. In conclusion, this book suits readers interested in consciousness studies, parapsychology, anomalous experiences, and the philosophical edges of time and causation, as well as creative professionals who notice the strange way inspiration can arrive before its apparent trigger. It can also appeal to skeptically minded readers who want a coherent model that treats precognition as a naturalistic possibility rather than a supernatural power. The benefit is practical as much as intellectual. By framing dreams, intuitions, and meaningful coincidences as potential signals of future emotional salience, readers may become better at tracking patterns in their motivations, fears, and desires. That kind of self-knowledge can improve decision-making, reduce anxiety about uncanny experiences, and make creative work more intentional. Compared with many books that either sensationalize psychic phenomena or dismiss them with generic debunking, Wargo's approach is worth buying for its integrative ambition. It tries to connect reported experiences, psychological mechanisms, and physics-adjacent ideas into one narrative. Even if a reader remains unconvinced, the framework provides a disciplined way to think about timing, meaning, and memory, and it offers a fresh perspective on how the future might quietly shape the present through the unconscious. If you would like to support Eric Wargo, you can buy the book through the Amazon link I've provided in the podcast description. After reading the book, please let me know what you think and share your thoughts. See you around.